If you want to support the Missing Witches Project, find out how at missingwitches.com or order our new book, New Moon Magic, 13 Anti-Capitalist Tools of Resistance and Reenchantment.
You aren't being a proper woman, therefore you must be a witch. You must be a witch.
In the lead up to an all-new season of the Missing Witches podcast, and the release of our new book, New Moon Magic, we're sharing with you, our coven, our listeners, snippets from the audiobook version of New Moon Magic, 13 Anti-Capitalist Tools for Resistance and Reenchantment by Risa Dickens and Amy Torek. Enjoy. New Moon Magic, 13 Anti-Capitalist Tools for Resistance and Reenchantment by Risa Dickens and Amy Torek. Narrated by the authors. Published by North Atlantic Books. This is a book for all those hatching their own individual relationships to a new kind of praxis. Praxis as in the actions by which a philosophy or theory is embodied. Praxis as in the craft. How we do what we believe. How we make our beliefs manifest. How step by step we are bringing our ideas into our bodies and the world. As the owner of House Witch shop in Salem, Massachusetts, Erica Feldman told us, quote, like witchcraft, anti-capitalism is a practice, end quote. Here, we weave these praxes together. Small causes have large effects. As lesbian activist, academic, and poet Judy Grain, with 82 years of experience behind her when we spoke, said, quote, the steps will feel small, but they add up. And she told us, our bonding is what makes a revolution happen, end quote. Step by step, we affirm our interdependence and co-craft the revolution with collaboration. Use these tools to put a spanner in the works of late-stage capitalism. Because for us, witchcraft isn't just a trend. It's a praxis for the pre-utopia. It's a word we find useful to describe the meeting point of our politics, spirituality, and art. A discursive space, a way of both imagining and creating a world of post-traumatic growth, flourishing in the cracks, and charting a path beyond the violence of capitalism, patriarchy, and white supremacy. In our wildest dreams, you find this book in a local library and use it to help disrupt the machine. Pick up these stories and use them to release your astonishing power, and to join forces with all those who are undertaking this wild, enchanting, collective work of claiming common spaces and weaving, flourishing communities. Because no matter how often we are demonized and turned against each other by liars using sleight of hand to rob us, the truth is, we are in this together. Quote, we are at stake to each other, end quote. As Donna Haraway writes in Staying with the Trouble, and quote, our job is to make the Anthropocene as short, thin as possible, and to cultivate with each other, in every way imaginable, epochs to come that can replenish refuge. Here, in the midst of destruction, in the heart of the trouble, our job is to replenish refuge. In a poem called For George Floyd, Fire, Adrienne Marie Brown writes, quote, we will never be convinced to be expendable. Alchemize every death system. Liberate our divine lives, end quote. We are at stake to each other. We dedicate all our work, words, and tools to alchemizing every death system, alchemizing the death cults of white supremacy and late-stage capitalism into our divine lives, singing out with every divine life that we are not expendable. Audre Lorde taught us that, quote, the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house, end quote. So we craft and carve new tools out of these old boards and beams to find the vein of magic in ourselves, in our loves and communities, to conjure forth our power to resist and reenchant. With this book, we send out into the circle stories of women, people of marginalized and expansive genders and sexualities, witches, and all those who have been persecuted for a spiritual philosophy that resisted the destruction of the natural world and our connection to it. People who have forged their bonds in the fire. Because the stories of people whose knowledge was occulted hold power. We share stories of the tools these ancestors used to amplify and extend their power so that you might amplify and extend your own. After writing Missing Witches, Recovering True Histories of Feminist Magic, tracing the immutable wheel of the year, we were left with a feeling that what came next was to look for things we could control, to look through the lives of missing witches for stories, of their tools that could be put to the work of feminist, anti-racist, decolonized and unsettled utopian world building. We have no say in the turning of the wheel, but we can turn our plowshares to the planting of new seeds. As Lane Redmond wrote, quote, "Cultural transformation begins with individual transformation," end quote. The tools you'll find in this book might not be able to change lead into gold or water into wine, but they can transform the mundane into the sacred. They can transform us, our lives, and with the rippling effect we know magic has, our culture as a whole. As above, so below. As within, so without. This book is not about the conventional tools you'll find in your local Wiccan shop, though a cauldron might appear in the potions and poisons chapter, a wand in ritual and ceremony, an athame in needles and knives. These specific objects are not the focus. We love the witch aesthetic, the pentagram-etched mortar and pestle, velvet cloaks, stacks of tarot cards and oracle decks. They bring us joy. Supporting the makers who create them connects us to them, and it feels like this heightens the magic that we bring from within ourselves. But these accoutrements are not the magic. You are the magic. The tools you'll find in this book are those that you can access free or cheap at any time. These are the tools that need not and often cannot be bought. They are action items, modes of conversation between yourself and nature, between all of us and the divine, however you define or observe that. For us, sometimes the divine is our collective interspecies ancestry. Sometimes the divine is an emergent property of the complex network that is life, and all its stories and archetypes. Sometimes it is a shared sense of self, of awakeness. Sometimes it is the wind. Whatever you believe, the tools in this book contain power for atheist practitioners and Gaia worshippers and Christian servants of the Loa alike. These universal tools are gifts from the totality of human history that help us to process trauma, pain, love, and joy, and make meaning. They can connect us to an ancient, pulsing web, sanctified. Think of a hammer. It's a simple tool our ancestors would have made with stone. You still could if you needed to. You can use a hammer to build a house, or you can use it as a weapon of violence. It is up to each of us to inform our tools of their meaning and purpose, and to use those tools to channel both rage and joy, to create and destroy, to sleep, dream, imagine, and craft. You may have purchased, borrowed, or stolen this book, but it doesn't come alive until you read it. In each chapter, you'll meet the historical and contemporary witches we've found who act as role models for us on the usage of these tools, making world-changing magic from pencils, dirt, and math. For our Missing Witches podcast, we've had the tremendous, mind-bending privilege to interview over 100 people about their practices, research, art, activism, craft, and magic. This book is woven like a magpie's nest, full of insights we've gathered from those interviews and from our own investigations into the lineage of witches past. We are still looking for the witches we've been missing. In our first book, Missing Witches, Reclaiming True Histories of Feminist Magic, we wrote that missing witches for us doesn't just mean missing as in not there, but as in the French for missing, tu me manques, which translates directly as, you are missing from me. You are a piece of myself that I lack. Over time, we've realized that we are the missing witches, and the word missing in this context is a verb. We are the ones who have been missing you. We come from a place of longing and lack. We are witches driven by our sense that we are missing people, missing perspectives, stories, and possible worlds. And so we see the Missing Witches Project, including this book of new moon magic, as an act of science fiction and speculative futurism. What will our world views and world look like when we reintegrate marginalized, obscured, violated, missing wisdom? What kind of community and identity can we find if we follow our own longing? We are searching always for a philosophy, identity, and relationship with the natural world and with the universe. We have been longing for kinship and a way of relating that speaks to a void in us. We have been missing you, all of you. None are expendable. So we go looking. We offer these true stories of real witches to conjure the magic of possibility, possible worlds, because sometimes the impossible is just waiting for someone to be first.
You aren't being a proper woman, therefore you must be a witch. You must be a witch.
If you want to support the Missing Witches Project, find out how at missingwitches.com or order our new book, New Moon Magic, 13 Anti-Capitalist Tools of Resistance and Reenchantment.